Alright, now that we named our YouTube channel, the next step is to make a video for the YouTube channel. You can use all kinds of different video editing software, but I'm going to be using Sony Vegas Pro 11 for this tutorial. Sony Vegas is really easy to use and noob friendly, so if you're new to the scene, I definitely recommend checking out Sony Vegas. There's a couple of free options. There's Windows Movie Maker, which typically comes installed, I believe, on Windows PCs. There's also another software called Lightworks, which is free to use, and you can upgrade to a Pro version if you want more features. And if you have a Mac, you can use iMovie. Those are just a few of the free options. You can also go paid, which is like Sony Vegas, Adobe Premiere, or Final Cut Pro if you have a Mac. So those are some options. You can Google for more, but those are just programs that I have experience with. So like I said, we're going to use Sony Vegas for this demonstration. We're going to make a small little video just to show you how easy it is. So let's get started on this video. Alright, so we have a base video, some royalty-free video that I downloaded off YouTube that I'm just going to drag and drop right into our composition. Typically, these videos will have some kind of outro and intro that you have to remove, and you do this in Sony Vegas by just grabbing and dragging until it no longer shows up on the screen. And I think we're good now, so we can just go ahead and move this to the very start of our composition, or the start of our scene, and then go to the outro and do the same thing. Remove that outro by just dragging and dropping, or dragging and moving to the left. So now that the outro is gone, we just have pure video footage, and if we play it, we can see the video playing in the background. So next step, we're going to want to add a transition to this, so we're just going to click to the beginning of our scene and drag it until we get to the end of the first clip in the video. And that looks like about right there. So we're just going to right click, go on cuts, and then right click, paste. And now we have the clip just kind of on its own now. We're going to do that again over here to remove this clip from the other scene. And pretty much just do the same thing until you... right about there, until you think that it's no longer part of the other video clip. So same thing, copy and paste, or cut and paste. Now we have 3 different clips to our video. A cool thing we can do in Sony Vegas is take the middle clip and then drag it over, and this creates a natural transition by itself. Unfortunately, the transition that was already built into the video is pretty much the same thing, so we can't really notice it. So in order to look and see what we can actually do in terms of transitions, we're going to click on our Transitions tab, and we're going to get this plethora of different transitions we can do. We're going to go with Iris and go to Circle Out Center, and as we click and drag it to the transition, we can see right away that it does something different, and we can go to the start of it, play it, and look to see what it does. Typically, you have the option to mess with the transition as soon as you drop it in, and that will pop up on the right. So if we want to mess with it a little bit, we can do all kinds of cool stuff, add a border to it if we want, repeat it even, so we can have 3 different bubbles, or 9 or 12, all kinds of different things you can do with your transition once it's into the picture. A cool thing is, if you find a transition after messing with it that you really enjoy, you can always save it by clicking up here on the preset, typing in funny transition, and then just hit this little save button here, and it will save your preset that you can just click on and click on it. So that means you can apply it to this one if you would like. So we go over here and we go ahead and drag the same transition over, and then we can click right here, go down to our funny transition, and now we have the transition on this side as well. So we can go ahead and play that if we want, just to see what we just did, and that looks alright. I suppose so. We'll just keep it basic. But we just created transitions with all 3 of our clips. Now our video has a little more depth to it. Now we're just gonna click on one clip, hold shift, click on the clip at the end of the sequence, and then press G. And what this does is merges all of them together. That way you can move them and you can't really lose them or delete them without deleting your whole composition, which would be bad, and you just have to undo it. So this makes it easier to move it along and work with it pretty easily. So next, what we're going to do next is make an intro. To make a small little intro, we can just right click, go to Insert Text Media, and this will pop up to the left with sample text. We're just going to go sample intro. If we want to change the size of the font, we just Control A to select it all, and then click on the little drop box and select what font size we want. So we'll go with that, and then underneath that we'll just go intro. And if we want to center this, just highlight, center, and if we want to shrink that text, we can go down to like 18. We can also change the text color if we want to. Well, we'll just stick with white. White looks the best in my opinion. So now that we have this small little text media here, we can drag it to expand it as big as we want. We'll just stick with like 5 seconds for an intro, I think. So there we go. And then we can go ahead and take our clips that we merged together and drag them over to the intro part. And now we have a small little intro. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and most clips have sound, of course, but if you want to get rid of the sound on a Sony Vegas clip, you can click right here at the very top and you can minimize the sound. If you want to completely remove it, you can either drop it all the way down to 0, or if you want to remove all of the sound from all of the clips on this line, you just click this little button here. This is the volume slider, and go all the way down to negative INF. And if we try to play it, we won't hear any sounds whatsoever. So that's one way to remove the sound. But if you want to do it for an individual clip, you would just drag and shrink it down to the bottom. Or if you just want to reduce the volume, go right about there. We'll do that with all the clips actually. So, and make sure to bring this back up. You can double click it to reset it back to 0 if you would like. And if we want to add a small little transition to our intro, we can just click on transitions here, and then we're going to go with the one of my favorite transitions is in the dissolve tab, and we scroll down to fade through transparent. Go ahead and click and just drop it on in, and as we start this video, you will notice right away the text it appears slowly in a fade transition. Now if we want to expand this a little bit so it appears even slower, we can just drag it over and then it comes up. Now if we wanted to, we could create another transition here on the out that disappears as we play the video. So that's just one thing you can do to add an intro. If you wanted to add a video to the intro, you could do that as well. It's pretty much the same thing as just dropping a video file in. If you wanted to, you could just drop another video file into the place of the intro and start a video like that. Now we're going to make a small little outro, similar in style. We'll go right click, go to insert text media, and just make it a little bit bigger just so that people have an option to click on annotations if they would like to. And now the sample text, you can edit the sample text on this by either clicking here or clicking on this little generated media tab. Now we're going to type outro here. Not there. All right, we're going to type outro here, and we're going to move this up towards the top. That way we can add a couple of images for annotations. So to move this up towards the top, we can either click on the location tab here and then click on our little thing and then use the up arrow to move it towards the top. If we want to shrink the font a little bit, we can do that as well, and then move it up a little bit more if we'd like to, and that's towards the top. And now we can change the font if we want by Control A to select it all and just select whatever font we'd like. This font makes it a little bit too big and makes it poke off the top, so we're just going to go ahead and click and drop it back down. Now that we have this, we can go ahead and add another transparent dissolve. We're going to do it towards the end as well. That way it fades into black as the video ends. So go ahead and click start towards the end, the beginning of the outro. You can see it just fades right in, and then we can click right here and then play towards the end of the outro to see it fade into black, which ends the video. This is going to be the end of the video. So next thing we can do, like I said earlier, we can add images to it to add image annotations. So to do that, we're going to want to right click onto an empty area on our composition, click insert video track. We're going to do it a couple of times because we have a couple of images we want people to click on. So we'll do it again. And now we'll just drag and drop the images we want as annotations. These ones are a little bit big, but we can fix that. So we want to make sure that it scales to the same length as our outro. That way there's no kind of drop off or sudden image appearance. Now, once again, we're going to go fade through transparent. We're just going to do it on both ends of each picture. That way it fades into darkness and then fades as the outro starts. Now, to adjust the size of the picture, the easiest way for me to do this personally is just to click on the track motion button here. And once we click on the track motion button, we can shrink the image by clicking on the width here. The height will auto adjust so it doesn't look too bad. You can shrink it as small or you can grow it as big as you want. I'm just gonna go with like 950, I think. If I can type 950, enter. There we go. So to move this to the position we want it to, we can now click on this and just move it where we want. So now we're going to do it with the other picture. Pretty simple and straightforward. Just click on the track motion button. Once again, click on width, go to 950. The height will auto adjust, and then we'll click on it, and then we'll move it downwards, line it up, make sure it's lined up with the other one so it doesn't look too out of proportion, and then just move it over with our arrow keys. And just like that, we have two annotations people can click on at the end of our video, and as we play it from the very start of the outro, it just appears. And if we wanted to kind of just disappear before the end of the outro plays, we can just drag these over a little bit, and those will fade before everything else, and it kind of gives a nice little effect. So that's one way to do an outro. Like I said at the start, a very simple tutorial for a very simple video. I know some people out there are probably a little more advanced in this, but this is for people just starting out who have no idea how to get going. So I do hope it helped in that regard. So I do hope you learned something. If you're not using Sony Vegas, you can just type in on Google tutorial for whatever program you're using, and you will have a ton of results. So that is what I recommend. If you don't by chance have the video software I used in this video, just Google. Google is your friend when learning any types of programs. So there is tutorials out there. Thank you guys for watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next section.